If I were to ask you the fastest way to lower your blood sugar, I can almost guarantee you'd say, cut the carbs or start a stricter diet. But what if I told you that in my over 2 decades of experience, I've found that relentless restriction is often the very thing preventing long-term success? What if I told you that the key isn't what you remove from your plate, but what you strategically add? The truth is, many of you are fighting a losing battle against your own biochemistry. You are managing symptoms while ignoring the biological communication breakdown happening inside your cells. The constant fear of the next meal, the confusion when your morning fasting number is sky high despite eating nothing, that ends today. Hello, I'm Dr. Liam Cooper. I have spent more than 20 years on the front lines of metabolic health, helping hundreds of patients reverse insulin resistance and prediabetes. And in that time, I've learned that a smarter, advanced approach doesn't rely on willpower alone. It relies on science. Today, we are going to move far beyond the basic advice you hear in most doctors' offices. I'm going to reveal 11 specific advanced foods that don't just slow down sugar, but actually wake up your cell's ability to use it. We are going to look at foods that communicate directly with your hormones and repair the metabolic signals that are currently broken. This is about addition, not subtraction. Let's get to it. The standard approach to managing blood sugar is completely backward, and to understand why, we have to look at what is happening inside your body at a cellular level long before a meal even touches your lips. When most people see a high number on their glucose meter, they immediately blame the last thing they ate. They think of their bloodstream as a simple bucket, and every time they eat a carbohydrate, they are pouring more water into that bucket until it overflows. If that were how the human body actually worked, then simply stopping the influx of carbohydrates would instantly solve the problem. But as many of you have experienced firsthand, you can cut your carbs down to almost nothing, live in a state of constant deprivation, and still watch your blood sugar refuse to budge. That is because the bucket analogy is entirely wrong. Your body is not a bucket. It is a complex, finely tuned signaling network. And the real breakdown isn't the sugar coming in. The breakdown is a phenomenon called insulin resistance, which is essentially a communication failure between your hormones and your cells. Under normal circumstances, every time you eat, your pancreas releases insulin. Think of insulin as a key that travels through your bloodstream, walks up to the door of your muscle and liver cells, and turns the lock so that glucose can exit your blood and enter the cell to be burned for fuel. But when your system has been overwhelmed by years of low-grade chronic inflammation, elevated stress hormones, and constant metabolic demand, those cellular locks become warped. The insulin key still arrives, but it can no longer turn the lock. The cell stays shut, the sugar builds up in your bloodstream, and your pancreas responds by pumping out even more insulin to force the doors open. This is a dangerous cycle because a body drowning in insulin is a body that is chemically blocked from burning fat, causing you to feel exhausted, hungry, and stuck. What almost no one explains to you is that high blood sugar is a lagging indicator. By the time your fasting glucose crawls above normal, this silent, invisible battle inside your receptors has been raging for a decade. The solution isn't to starve your cells of energy through extreme restriction. The solution is to repair the locks so the keys work again. Every advanced food we are going to discuss today enters this battlefield with a specific biochemical mission. They do not just mask the problem. They either physically alter the rate of glucose absorption, neutralize the specific inflammatory molecules that jam your cellular receptors, or act as natural sensitizers that help your cells recognize insulin on the very first knock. When you approach your health this way, you stop fighting against your own biology, and you start optimizing it. You don't need to completely overhaul your life by tomorrow morning. True, lasting metabolic reversal happens when you strategically stack these targeted adjustments over time, allowing your cellular membranes to slowly heal and regain their natural efficiency. Let us look at how the very first food accomplishes this by deploying a unique structural mechanism inside your digestive tract. The first food on our advanced list is fenugreek seeds. And if you have been dismissing this as a basic home remedy, you are overlooking a precise structural tool. These seeds contain a rare and highly structured soluble fiber known as galactomannan. When this specific compound encounters water in your stomach, it undergoes a rapid physical transformation, expanding into a thick, highly viscous cellular gel. This gel creates a temporary, natural barrier along the lining of your small intestine. What this means for your biology is that any carbohydrates you consume during that meal are physically trapped within this matrix. Instead of rushing into your bloodstream all at once and causing a sharp spike that forces your pancreas to panic, the glucose is released in a slow, steady trickle. But the biochemistry goes even deeper than that. Fenugreek seeds contain a unique amino acid called 4-hydroxyisoleucine. Peer-reviewed research demonstrates that this compound acts as a natural secretagogue, directly stimulating your pancreatic beta cells to release insulin, but only when circulating blood glucose is actually elevated. It essentially acts as a smart regulator, optimizing your body's natural response exactly when you need it most. To use this effectively, take 1 teaspoon of whole fenugreek seeds and soak them in a glass of water overnight. In the morning, the seeds will be softened and the water will be infused with the active compounds. Drink the water and consume the seeds immediately before your first meal. If you find the naturally bitter, nutty flavor too intense initially, you can grind the dried seeds into a fine powder and mix half a teaspoon into plain Greek yogurt or stir it directly into warm, savory dishes. The second food is Ceylon cinnamon, and this is where a critical distinction must be made because grabbing the wrong bottle at the grocery store can actually burden your system. The common, inexpensive variety found in most spice aisles is cassia cinnamon. It contains high levels of a compound called coumarin, which can place measurable toxic stress on your liver when consumed in therapeutic doses day after day. You must specifically look for Ceylon cinnamon, often labeled as true cinnamon, which is completely safe for daily long-term use. What makes Ceylon cinnamon a cornerstone of metabolic repair is its incredibly dense concentration of water-soluble polyphenol polymers, particularly type A polymers. At the cellular level, these unique plant compounds mimic the action of insulin itself. They interact directly with the insulin receptors on your cell membranes, triggering the autophosphorylation of the receptor, which essentially means they help polish the warped cellular locks so your own insulin can bind and open the cell door much more effectively. Clinical trials have shown that under half a teaspoon of daily true cinnamon can reduce fasting blood sugar levels by a measurable margin in individuals with metabolic dysfunction. The strategy here is all about timing. Incorporate a 1/4 to a half teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon directly into your morning coffee, mix it into your oatmeal, or blend it into a protein smoothie. The key is to always pair it with a meal containing carbohydrates, because that is the exact window when your insulin receptors need that biochemical assistance to clear glucose from the blood efficiently. The third food on our list is broccoli sprouts. And I want you to look closely at this because it is one of the most clinically underutilized assets in the entire world of metabolic health. We are not talking about mature broccoli heads, but rather the tiny 3-day-old sprouts. This distinction is critical because these young sprouts contain up to 100 times more of a compound called glucoraphanin than the adult plant. When you chew or crush these sprouts, an enzyme called myrosinase converts that compound into sulforaphane, a highly bioavailable molecule that operates at a deep genetic level. What makes sulforaphane extraordinary is its ability to cross cell membranes and activate a specific pathway known as the NRF2 cellular defense mechanism. This pathway controls genes that reduce oxidative stress and chronic inflammation, which are the exact forces that gum up your insulin receptors. But its most powerful trick happens in the liver. Your liver is responsible for gluconeogenesis, which is the production of glucose while you sleep. In a state of insulin resistance, the liver ignores the signal to stop and continuously dumps sugar into your blood, which is why so many people wake up with an unexplained high morning number. Sulforaphane directly downregulates the liver enzymes responsible for this overnight sugar factory, meaning it actively targets your fasting numbers. To utilize broccoli sprouts, incorporate a small handful, roughly a 1/4 cup, into your daily routine. You can layer them into a turkey sandwich, toss them into a fresh salad, or blend them into a raw vegetable smoothie. The absolute rule here is that you must eat them completely raw or only very lightly wilted. High heat completely deactivates the myrosinase enzyme, rendering the sulforaphane useless. You can find them in the organic produce aisle or easily grow them on your own kitchen counter in a glass mason jar for pennies. The fourth food is the avocado, which has unfortunately been demonized for decades due to its high calorie and fat content. This fear-based thinking has cost millions of people an incredible blood sugar management tool. The fat profile of an avocado is predominantly made of monounsaturated fatty acids, specifically oleic acid, which is the exact same heart-healthy fat found in premium extra virgin olive oil. When you look at blood sugar through a metabolic lens, fat is not the enemy. It is a powerful stabilizer. When you add half an avocado to a meal that contains carbohydrates, like a bowl of quinoa or a slice of whole grain toast, you are fundamentally altering the physics of digestion. The rich monounsaturated fats and the dense dietary fiber inside the avocado work in tandem to slow down gastric emptying. This means the stomach releases food into the small intestine at a measured pace, transforming what would have been a sharp, jagged blood sugar spike into a low, gentle, manageable curve. Beyond simply slowing down your digestion, these specific monounsaturated fats are absorbed directly into your cell membranes. When your cellular walls are built from high-quality monounsaturated fats rather than processed vegetable oils, the membranes become more fluid and flexible. This structural flexibility allows the insulin receptors embedded in those walls to move freely and bind with insulin much more easily, effectively lowering your systemic insulin resistance over time. Aim for half an avocado daily, sliced over your morning eggs or mashed into your lunch bowl to provide an immediate buffer against post-meal spikes. The fifth food on our advanced list is chia seeds, and these tiny seeds are a masterclass in metabolic engineering. When you submerge chia seeds in liquid, you can see their primary mechanism of action happen right before your eyes. They absorb up to 12 times their weight in water, rapidly forming a thick gelatinous matrix. In your stomach and upper digestive tract, this gel acts as a physical barrier that encapsulates the carbohydrates from your meal. Because your digestive enzymes have to work through this dense gel, the breakdown of starches into glucose is significantly delayed, resulting in a perfectly flat post-meal blood sugar response. But the benefits of chia seeds extend far beyond their structural fiber. They are one of the richest plant-based sources of alpha-linolenic acid, an essential omega-3 fatty acid. Once absorbed, these fatty acids act as potent signaling molecules that help dampen the fires of cellular inflammation. When your body is in a state of chronic low-grade inflammation, your immune system releases inflammatory cytokines that physically block the internal pathways connected to your insulin receptors. By reducing this inflammatory burden, chia seeds help clear the internal communication lines so your cells can listen to insulin again. To get the best results, consume 1 to 2 tablespoons daily by stirring them into yogurt, mixing them into a morning smoothie, or allowing them to sit in unsweetened almond milk for 15 minutes to create a blood sugar-friendly pudding. The sixth food shifts our focus from plant-based fats to the ocean, and that is fatty fish, specifically wild-caught salmon and mackerel. Unlike chia seeds, fatty fish contains the highly bioavailable, preformed marine omega-3 fatty acids known as EPA and DHA. Your body does not need to convert these. It can utilize them instantly. At a deep biological level, these marine fatty acids are incorporated directly into the phospholipid bilayer of your cell membranes, completely replacing the rigid, damaged fats from processed foods that cause cellular dysfunction. When your cell membranes are rich in EPA and DHA, they become highly fluid and receptive. This structural change dramatically improves the efficiency of your glucose transporter proteins, which are the internal vehicles that rush to the cell surface to scoop up sugar from your blood whenever insulin knocks. Furthermore, a 2024 meta-analysis confirmed that regular consumption of marine omega-3s significantly downregulates systemic inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein, which is often highly elevated in individuals struggling with insulin resistance. To maximize this cellular repair, aim for 2 to 3 servings of fatty fish per week, with each serving being roughly the size of your palm. Excellent options include salmon, mackerel, sardines, and wild herring. If fresh fish is difficult to source or budget-friendly options are a priority, do not overlook canned mackerel or sardines packed in water or olive oil. They contain the exact same potent levels of EPA and DHA and represent some of the most cost-effective medical nutrition available. The seventh food on our list is walnuts, which possess a unique structural advantage over almost every other nut in the grocery store. While most nuts are dominant in monounsaturated fats, walnuts are exceptionally rich in polyunsaturated fatty acids, particularly a balance of alpha-linolenic acid and linoleic acid. This unique fat profile has a direct measurable impact on an area of health that high blood sugar silently destroys: the endothelium, which is the delicate inner lining of your blood vessels. When your blood sugar stays consistently high, glucose molecules bond with proteins in a process called glycation, creating rough, inflammatory compounds that scar the endothelium. The unique fats and antioxidants within walnuts directly support endothelial function, keeping your blood vessels flexible and resilient. At the same time, large-scale nutritional studies have demonstrated that regular walnut consumption is uniquely associated with a reduction in fasting insulin levels. This is a critical distinction because lowering your baseline insulin means your pancreas doesn't have to strain as hard to keep your glucose stable, which is the definition of true cellular recovery. A small handful, roughly 1 ounce or 14 halves, used as a replacement for processed mid-afternoon snacks, is all it takes to turn a potential blood sugar spike into a clean metabolic flatline. The eighth food is the whole egg, yolk included. For decades, outdated and flawed nutritional guidelines warned people away from egg yolks due to a fear of dietary cholesterol, driving millions toward high-carbohydrate, sugary breakfast cereals that devastated their metabolic health. When you look at an egg through modern biochemistry, it is an absolute powerhouse for blood sugar control, containing virtually zero carbohydrates and a highly bioavailable matrix of pure protein and healthy fats. The real magic of starting your day with eggs is a metabolic phenomenon known as the second meal effect. When you consume a breakfast dense in quality protein and fats, it doesn't just keep your blood sugar flat for that specific meal. It actually primes your metabolic system for hours afterward. Clinical studies show that individuals who eat eggs in the morning enter their lunchtime hour with vastly superior insulin sensitivity and experience a significantly lower glucose spike at lunch, even if that lunch contains a moderate amount of carbohydrates. This is because a protein-rich morning stabilizes your hunger hormones, particularly ghrelin, and eliminates the intense mid-morning cravings that lead to erratic snacking. 2 to 3 boiled, scrambled, or poached whole eggs in the morning create the perfect defensive baseline for your entire day. The ninth food is apple cider vinegar. And if you are looking for an intervention that shows an immediate, tangible result on a continuous glucose monitor within hours, this is it. The secret weapon here is acetic acid. When you consume a small amount of vinegar before a carbohydrate meal, the acetic acid temporarily inhibits the activity of alpha amylase, an enzyme in your saliva and small intestine responsible for breaking down complex starches into simple sugars. Because the starches cannot be broken down as quickly, the delivery of glucose to your bloodstream is significantly delayed. Furthermore, once acetic acid enters your bloodstream, it activates an enzyme pathway called AMPK, which acts as a master energy switch inside your body. When AMPK is activated, it signals your skeletal muscles to rapidly pull glucose out of your bloodstream to use for immediate fuel, completely independent of how much insulin your pancreas is producing. This gives you a dual benefit. It slows the entry of sugar and speeds up its clearance. To use it safely, dilute exactly 1 tablespoon of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar into a tall glass of water and drink it through a straw 10 to 15 minutes before your largest carbohydrate meal. Always dilute it to protect your tooth enamel and throat lining from the acid. The 10th food on our list is lentils, and this food is perhaps the most important proof that the total elimination of carbohydrates is an unnecessary and flawed strategy. A single cup of cooked lentils contains roughly 40 grams of carbohydrates, which causes many people to mistakenly categorize them as a food to avoid. However, the unique structural architecture of a lentil makes it an absolute weapon for metabolic optimization, because its carbohydrates are primarily made of a specialized compound known as resistant starch. Resistant starch is physically incapable of being broken down by the digestive enzymes in your stomach and small intestine. It passes completely intact into your large intestine, meaning it does not convert into glucose or cause a rapid rise in your blood sugar. Instead, when this resistant starch reaches your colon, it becomes an elite fuel source for your beneficial gut microbiome. Your gut bacteria ferment this starch and produce short-chain fatty acids. specifically a compound called butyrate. Modern metabolic research has revealed that butyrate travels through your bloodstream and acts as a powerful epigenetic signal, directly turning on genes that improve insulin sensitivity in your fat and muscle cells. Furthermore, lentils contain a massive dose of plant-based protein and soluble fiber that slows gastric emptying to a crawl. This creates a powerful manifestation of the second meal effect. Eating lentil soup at lunch actively flattens your blood sugar response for your evening dinner hours later. Swapping out a refined starch like white rice or potatoes for a half cup of cooked lentils a few times a week is one of the most clinically reliable ways to systematically lower your long-term A1C numbers. Now let us introduce the 11th food, an advanced addition that was not mentioned in the older guidelines, but is backed by compelling clinical evidence: extra virgin olive oil. While many people think of olive oil purely as a cooking ingredient, high-quality, cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil is actually a potent medicinal food rich in a unique antioxidant compound called oleuropein. When you consume a tablespoon of high polyphenol extra virgin olive oil with a meal, oleuropein interacts directly with your digestive tract to stimulate the secretion of GLP-1, or glucagon-like peptide 1. This is the exact same metabolic hormone that modern, highly expensive weight loss and diabetes medications try to mimic synthetically. By naturally boosting your body's own GLP-1 production, olive oil signals your pancreas to release insulin in a much more precise, micromanaged response to food, while simultaneously slowing down the rate at which your stomach empties. Additionally, the rich oleic acid in olive oil integrates into your cellular walls, reducing the oxidative stress that damages the delicate insulin receptors. Drizzling 1 to 2 tablespoons of raw, unheated, extra virgin olive oil over your cooked vegetables, salads, or lentils is an incredibly simple, sophisticated way to upgrade your cellular communication and protect your vascular system from glucose-induced damage. To tie all 11 of these foods together, let us look at a patient of mine named Donna. At 63, Donna came to my clinic with a fasting blood sugar of 180 and an A1C deep in the diabetic range. Her doctor wanted to add a second heavy medication, but Donna was terrified because she had watched her own mother suffer the severe consequences of unmanaged metabolic disease. We didn't force her into a state of starvation. Instead, we focused purely on strategic addition. We added eggs and avocado in the morning, lentils and extra virgin olive oil at lunch, walnuts as an afternoon snack, and a diluted tablespoon of vinegar before her dinner. Within 3 months of working together, her numbers had dropped so significantly that her primary physician safely removed her from that second medication entirely. 2 years later, her numbers remained perfectly stable. She didn't achieve this through suffering. She achieved it by changing the input so her body could repair the output. Please remember that the information shared in this video is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as personal medical advice. If you are currently taking insulin or blood sugar medications, these foods can work so effectively that your current dosages may need to be adjusted by your physician to prevent a dangerous low. Always bring this list to your primary healthcare provider to work as a team. If you found value in these insights, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and leave a comment below sharing your own morning fasting numbers this week. Taking control of your metabolic health is a journey of consistency, not perfection. Take care of yourself, and I, Dr. Liam Cooper, will see you in the next video.